Thrive: Strategies to Turn Uncertainty into Competitive Advantage. Written and narrated by Meridith Elliott Powell. Print copyright 2021 Meridith Elliott Powell. Published by Sound Wisdom. Audio production copyright 2021 Primo Productions.
Dedication. This book is dedicated to the companies and leaders who served as the inspiration for this idea, this formula, and my newfound passion for helping others turn uncertainty into competitive advantage. It is also dedicated to those who provided valuable support throughout the entire development process. To my sister Beth, who listens to me endlessly share my ideas and then somehow shapes them into powerful strategies. To my editor, Susan, for her ability to be as excited about my ideas as I am, and for her commitment to help me bring them to fruition. To my best friend, Sue, who selflessly supports me, believes in me, and opens doors and opportunities for me that I could never access myself. And of course, to my husband, Rob, for his patience when I get engrossed in projects, his belief in me, and for always being my biggest cheerleader. Preface: Uncertainty and the State of American Business. This book was written as a guide, a reference for what you need to know to completely shift how you think and feel about uncertainty. Thrive will take you on a journey to better understand uncertainty, its impact on your business and the customer experience, and the massive potential that exists in an uncertain marketplace. Throughout the pages of this book, you will encounter powerful stories about companies and leaders who have not only pushed through challenging times, but thrived through them, which will inspire you to take action. You will also gain peace of mind knowing that uncertainty and challenge are not cataclysmic events. They are just part of being in business. Every generation experiences them. Thrive is based on two levels of research. First, qualitative, historical and narrative. We invested significant time into identifying, studying, and talking with the companies highlighted in this book so that we could gather their stories, learn about their challenges, and detail what was uncovered. Second is quantitative, survey and data-based. In 2020, we hired the Center for Generational Kinetics to undertake a thorough survey and data-driven research project to help us understand, verify, and prove the impact of uncertainty on leaders, organizations, and American businesses today. The Center for Generational Kinetics is one of the most prominent research firms in the country, working with today's leading companies in every major industry. Their research has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Fortune magazine, and many others. Our goal with the research was to test both the findings and strategies we uncovered from working with and interviewing the featured companies and developing our 9-step proven formula. While we knew from the qualitative research and our own experience that these were the strategies that would transform any leader or company challenged with uncertainty, we wanted to go a level deeper and further prove the results. The goals of our study were as follows: to understand the influence of uncertainty in business and test how business leaders think about and navigate uncertainty. To further explore the difference between businesses and business leaders that are proactively conditioned for change and uncertainty, and those that are reactive to it. To test the importance of flexibility, adaptability, and objectivity when dealing with uncertainty in business. To verify if the strategies in our 9-step formula were the steps that businesses and leaders need to take to redefine how they think, act, and find success in the face of uncertainty. More than 800 business leaders, CEOs, and C-suite professionals took part in this study, with an equal participation of male and female leaders. Over 200 of the leaders were from companies with more than 1,000 employees. The age range of participants was from 30 to 65. Managers, directors, CEOs, and C-suite professionals from every generation were represented. The results of the study were profound. They further proved the need for this book and the value of the 9-step formula. They also demonstrated the importance of businesses and leaders learning to shift their beliefs and actions related to uncertainty. Here are some of the high-level findings from the research. 76% of business leaders say that uncertainty is one of the most important yet least understood concepts in business. 84% of business leaders say that being able to lead through uncertainty effectively is more important than ever before. 84% of business leaders say that handling uncertainty well is a sign of professionalism. Creating engaged teams, building succession plans, and understanding how to balance being highly focused and highly flexible are the most helpful skills leaders need to successfully navigate uncertainty. 84% of business leaders say that leaders who proactively look at, manage, and communicate change are more likely to be successful. 80% of business leaders say that you can adapt to change without compromising your company's values. 78% of leaders say that being flexible impacts your company's ability to successfully navigate uncertain times. The most important qualities of a team that looks at change proactively vary dramatically by generation. For older millennials, it's a team of strong communicators and good listeners. For Generation X, it's a team that's engaging. And for boomers, it's a team that views change as an opportunity, embraces reality, and asks for and accepts feedback. 84% of business leaders say that having established core values is essential to the long-term success of a business. Making a clear connection between a company's core values and its actions is the best way for business leaders to communicate those core values to their employees. This belief is consistent across generations and genders. 70% of business leaders say that a good company culture will make employees stay longer at a job they don't even like. 83% of business leaders say that it's important to step away from their company and look at things objectively in order to make productive decisions. 57% of business leaders say that other leaders are incapable of looking at their company objectively when they make decisions. 58% of business leaders rank relevancy in the top 3 most important qualities of a successful business. And 88% of business leaders say that relevancy is important or absolutely critical to the long-term success of a business. So what are the bottom line findings from this research? And what will you learn from reading this book and implementing our 9-step formula? Business leaders report feeling that uncertainty threatens the success of their company and impacts their company's performance. In the pages of Thrive, we'll dive into the impact uncertainty has on business, the customer experience, and overall performance. You'll understand uncertainty at a deeper level and learn how to make it work for you rather than against you. 3 out of 4 business leaders say that their team would be more valuable if they were better at handling uncertainty. Thrive provides research and the strategies for how to lead through uncertainty, help your team engage in the process, and build their resilience and agility when it comes to shifts in the marketplace. Overwhelmingly, business leaders say that it's important to condition themselves to handle change, and they see clear value in conditioning their employees to handle change. Thrive provides the tools and resources to prime your leaders, your team members, and your organization to handle change in the most effective way possible. Business leaders believe that a company's culture and core values are critical to their ability to handle uncertainty. Thrive details how to actively use your core values to further develop your team, enhance your culture, and increase performance. Interestingly, business leaders understand the importance of looking at their company objectively in order to make more productive decisions, but they also find this difficult to do. Thrive equips you with the techniques that will enable you to look at your company objectively, understand what you need to continue to do, recognize what needs to change, and quickly identify what needs to be added. Business leaders overwhelmingly say that relevancy is important or absolutely critical to the long-term success of a business. Thrive outlines the impact that relevancy can have on business growth and resilience and provides the tools needed to ensure your strategy, your products, your messaging, and your team remain relevant. While uncertainty will remain one of the biggest challenges that leaders and organizations face today, our mission with this book, our passion, has been to help you view uncertainty differently, to see uncertainty as something that does not prevent growth, but actually propels it. As you read Thrive, you will see the questions you have about uncertainty addressed on every single page. You will learn from the companies and leaders that have gone before you. You will gain the solutions you need to push through your biggest obstacles, and you will acquire the strategies and tools you need to consistently turn uncertainty into your competitive advantage. Enjoy. Let's do this. Introduction. A new year, a new decade. So much promise. Like many of you, I started 2020 off strong. By the end of February, I was on track to have my best quarter and what I believed would be my best year on record since I started my business. The excitement was palpable. Then in 1 week, everything changed. Those pivotal moments are unforgettable. The declaration of a global pandemic, the stay-at-home orders, the travel lockdown, the promise of my spectacular year circling the drain. I make my living as a keynote speaker. By definition, I am paid to get on planes, travel around the world, and engage with thousands of people. That business model instantly became obsolete during the second week of March. One by one, my speaking engagements were canceled. Potential revenue disappeared, and my once packed calendar was empty. To add insult to injury, my business model became unworkable. Thanks to COVID-19, worldwide travel and close contact with a huge group of people were no longer an option. My first response to a business environment decimated by a global pandemic was, panic. Okay, technically speaking, I might have freaked out a little bit. I had no idea how I was going to generate income. Would I have to sell everything I own on eBay? Could I get a job delivering pizzas? Then I got mad. I mean, really angry. This novel coronavirus was not only threatening hundreds of thousands of lives around the world, but it was also personally attacking my business, my goals, and my revenue. Even if I wasn't infected, I was deeply affected. I felt uncharacteristically powerless. I felt like a victim, but not for long. I quickly recognized that this situation was completely out of my control. The only thing I could control was my response. I knew I needed a strategy. Did I have one? Nope. This was all new territory. Oddly enough, I had spent the last 18 months doing preliminary research for a book about how companies navigate challenges in the business environment. The original concept was to help leaders guide their organizations through economic hardships such as recessions, workforce shortages, or an influx of new competition. I can definitely say that the word pandemic never entered the conversation. But here we were. I had already completed in-depth interviews with leaders from some of the oldest, most stable companies around the country to find out their secrets to success. Given the context of the current situation, I sensed that the leaders' responses were just as much about how to survive as they were about how to succeed. After all, these corporate giants had made it through wars, stock market crashes, recessions, depressions, cultural upheaval, 9/11, the subprime mortgage crisis, and yes, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. Perhaps the blueprint for my business survival in 2020 was hidden somewhere in all those pages of interview notes. With my speaking events canceled and the luxury of time, I started pouring through my book research files to look for answers, or at least some kind of inspiration. What specific strategies did those evergreen companies use to stay in business despite centuries of major challenges? How did they thrive when so many others went under? Most importantly, were there any common threads? I had to analyze these business models on a much deeper level than I initially intended. However, the similarities I found were mind-blowing. Discovering the formula. When I finished my in-depth review of these companies, I compiled my insights, cross-referenced the results, and worked to distill their proven wisdom. What did I end up with? I found a list of 9 concise strategies that seemed to create an unwritten formula for thriving in the midst of uncertainty. This was not at all what I expected when I started the project in 2018, but it was somehow even more compelling. To be quite frank, I wasn't completely sure this formula would apply to me as a solo entrepreneur, but I was desperate and willing to take the bet. It was time to drink my own Kool-Aid, so to speak. Fast forward 4 months, after social distancing guidelines choked the life out of my balance sheet, this unique collection of strategies helped me turn my business around in a dramatic way. They also changed my approach to this book. Instead of just sharing a formula used by some highly respected powerhouse companies, I now had first-hand experience with the application and its success. My level of passion about this writing project increased exponentially. The formula was simple, although not necessarily easy to implement. It required discipline, consistency, and courage. But most importantly, it worked. I saw it happen. I don't know what kind of uncertainty and adversity are looming over your professional life or the life of your company as you read this book right now, but I know one thing for sure. The insights in the pages ahead can give you the preparation and direction you need to handle it, no matter what it is. Minor crisis or major catastrophe, the same formula applies. Are you a current or future leader, an entrepreneur, executive team member, or sole proprietor? Do you work for a small family business or a Fortune 500? Again, the same formula works. If you are diligent about applying these strategies during good times and bad, you can capture a unique competitive advantage. Even better, you'll gain a secret weapon to help you outlast whatever uncertainty comes next. Presenting the information. So what can you expect to find as you make your way through this book? In Chapter 1, I explore the broader concept of uncertainty, the challenges, the perceptions, and the impact. I also include an uncertainty timeline that will give you an interesting historical perspective on this subject and hopefully a little peace of mind. There's something calming about the realization that uncertainty is normal, cyclical, and expected. For hundreds of years, businesses have been enduring situations much tougher than what we are going through today. Survival and success are possible. In chapter 2 through 10, I provide detailed descriptions of the 9 strategies that create the formula for thriving in uncertainty. Each chapter starts with a real-world case study, a story about the journey of a trailblazing company and its smart, resilient leaders. I explain how these organizations were founded, the challenges they faced, and the approaches they used to survive. After each story, I highlight the key parts of the strategy they used and give you the guidelines on how you can apply that approach to your own situation as a current or future business leader. Chapter 11 offers you a step-by-step action plan for combining these strategies to implement the formula for thriving in uncertainty. You'll have access to valuable tools and worksheets that can streamline your efforts and give your organization a distinct competitive advantage. They're available for free at valuespeaker.com. And finally, Chapter 12 provides you with a roadmap for translating the book's business strategies into a formula for managing uncertainty on a personal level. The parallels may surprise you, but the outcomes, they are equally impressive. Beginning the journey. Ready to dive in? When you finish this book, you will think about uncertainty in a totally different way. You'll no longer see it as something that prevents growth, but as something that actually propels it. You'll understand how to stop allowing uncertainty to hold you back. Instead, you'll learn how to turn uncertainty into something you can control and even leverage. The leaders responsible for companies that stood the test of time discovered that opportunity is hiding in the midst of uncertainty. If you know how to search for it and take advantage of it, you and your business can also thrive and be poised for epic, lasting success. Are you ready for a history lesson you are going to love? Well, if you go to valuespeaker.com, the very first visual tool you're going to have is going to take you back through time and highlight some of the biggest uncertainty these businesses have faced, and we'll highlight the challenges with it, but we're going to show you the opportunities. Again, this is going to give you peace of mind, make you feel calm. We've been here before. We've actually been through tougher times, and together we can emerge successful. Chapter 1. Unpack the concept of uncertainty. I'm fascinated by the concept of uncertainty in the business environment. How C-suite executives and leaders think about, react to, and deal with uncertainty. The psychology behind all of that. The impact of those perceptions on the bottom line. After extensively studying this concept, I've drawn some interesting conclusions. The main one: if you want to give your organization the best possible chance for long-term success, it's time to get more comfortable with uncertainty. In this chapter, I want to share with you 4 important insights I've gleaned about the uncomfortable yet inevitable state of uncertainty in the business world. Uncertainty is an emotional subject. No big surprise here. Leaders aren't wild about best guesses. They want as many facts as possible before making decisions, especially when the outcomes could have an impact on their revenue, their budgets, their teams, or their own jobs. They fully recognize that variables are involved, and they use detailed spreadsheets to make multiple projections. Given a choice between the known and the unknown, the vast majority of professionals would select the former. Unfortunately, we don't always have an option, and that can produce increased frustration. To be fair, some levels of uncertainty exist for all of us at any moment in time. We can't predict when the car will break down or when our Amazon order will be unavoidably delayed. Most of us can go with the flow when faced with those annoying inconveniences. But what happens in the business environment after a natural disaster or a financial crisis? Those events fuel an intense level of uncertainty that can stop us in our tracks, like toss out the spreadsheets and start from scratch roadblocks. Complete momentum crashers. Oh yes, that kind of uncertainty tends to cause some serious stress. In fact, there's concrete proof to back that up. A Forbes article recently described a scientific study on this topic that was reported in Nature Communications, a leading peer-reviewed journal. This study found that uncertainty, not knowing what is going to happen, creates more stress than knowing that something bad is definitely going to happen. According to the scientists, our bodies can become so consumed with the stress of what if that our adrenaline spikes, our pupils dilate, and our pulse increases. All of those responses occur at rates that are significantly higher than those associated with the actual negative event. Translate that into the business setting. A sales executive would rather experience less stress knowing that she will lose her biggest account rather than worrying and speculating about whether she could lose it, an outcome that potentially might not even happen. So what's behind that? Maybe it's a byproduct of our overactive imaginations. One example that comes to mind is Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She and her pals wasted a lot of time and energy worrying about a scary confrontation with a terrifying almighty wizard who ended up being just an old guy behind a curtain. Reality wasn't nearly as stressful as uncertainty. I think we have all had that experience at some point in our life, knowing it's just easier than not knowing. To make matters worse, there's another emotion that uncertainty tends to breed, and that's fear. I started noticing that trend a few years ago when I was talking with business owners and leaders. As a point of reference, these conversations occurred during booming economic times. I'd ask these business owners how business was going, and the responses frequently went something like this. We're having a great year. Business is growing. Banks are lending and customers are buying. But our luck is bound to run out at some point. There's just so much uncertainty about what's ahead. What struck me the most was how much different leaders in diverse industries express the exact same fear. Even if I never mentioned uncertainty, they did. It was top of mind for virtually everyone I encountered. Across the board, uncertainty seems to have become the enemy hiding around the next corner and waiting to steal their prosperity. It's almost like a perpetual threat against enjoying a stable, successful time. The bigger story, of course, is the impact of these uncertainty-related emotions on leaders and employees alike, as well as the organizations they serve. High-performing teams can't possibly produce at an optimal level if people are continuously distracted by stress, frustration, and fear. Attention spans are shorter. Engagement is shredded. Survival takes precedence over innovation. Without a doubt, the negative emotions spawned by uncertainty can quickly become counterproductive for everyone involved. Uncertainty is a constant. If I were an economic meteorologist, I would look you in the eyes with complete confidence and tell you this. Your forecast includes 100% chance of uncertainty. It's a non-negotiable, inescapable fact of business and life. The question is when, not if. Every single year delivers its fair share of unexpected surprises and disasters. Without fail, history proves that over and over. Admittedly, some years seem to serve up a super-sized portion of uncertainty. I'm looking at you, 2020. When we watched the ball drop in Times Square on New Year's Eve 2019, No one could have predicted the complete dumpster fire that became 2020. A global pandemic, economic meltdown, skyrocketing unemployment, shrinking GDP, fierce debates about face masks, and nationwide social unrest. Then just for fun, we also got the infamous murder hornets, the Alaskan zombie fires, the Saharan dust cloud invasion, and the one that still baffles me, the toilet paper shortage crisis. Who knew? Absolutely no one. And we have no idea what's coming next. It's always been that way, and it's never going to change. Even if we want our teams to avoid the emotional drag that seems to come with uncertainty, we have to somehow help them accept and even lean into the constant state of not knowing. Uncertainty doesn't have to be something that is feared or dreaded. It just is, which brings me to my third point. Uncertainty has an upside. I keep coming back to this question. Why does uncertainty have to be a negative thing? I'm not talking about the often tragic events that create uncertainty. Wars, tsunamis, and pandemics are still firmly in the I'd rather have a root canal category. I'm referring to uncertainty itself. Being thrust into a situation filled with unknowns, perhaps as the result of one of those events. Let's take a closer look at that. We already know that uncertainty is both stressful and constant. That leaves us with an important choice. Do we allow nonstop uncertainty to overwhelm us with toxic emotions? Or instead of hoping it doesn't exist or actively dreading its arrival, can we reframe it? What if we could leverage it, even embrace it? What if welcoming constant uncertainty could give professionals, leaders, and their companies a competitive advantage? Wait, I'll even double down on that. What if uncertainty is actually something we all need, a critical catalyst to transform businesses and take them to the next level? The answer to both of those questions is absolutely yes. Uncertainty and opportunity are two sides of the same coin. The proof. Now, if you're reading along, I want you to go to the graphics at the bottom of the page. If not, go to valuespeaker.com, and there you're going to get the very first visual that shows you a history lesson you're going to love. And for each featured event, you'll find the name of a difficult uncertainty producing event in our nation's history, along with a list of its painful outcomes. A second list, however, highlights some of the greatest advances in medicine, technology, transportation, and communication that directly emerged because of those disastrous times. Amidst the uncertainty, people were powerfully compelled to identify unique opportunities for addressing unmet needs. Those who learn how to embrace the upside of uncertainty can use its natural tension to elevate and increase their capacity for problem solving and innovation. Consider what that looks like on a business level. Uncertain situations automatically force great leaders to shift into a different mindset, a higher gear where agility is a requirement, not an option. Fast, frequent strategic thinking becomes their lifeline. What are our best alternatives starting right now? If there aren't any obvious choices, how can we create some? What are the short and long-term implications of the decisions we're making? What could go wrong? What's our plan B? What opportunities might be hidden in the mess? I'm not in any way suggesting that we should become stranded in a perpetual fight or flight mode. However, the uncertainty mindset and the innate nimbleness that goes with it could help professionals at any level stay prepared for what we've confirmed is a continuous stream of unknowns coming our way. Preparation and perspective. One part of the uncertainty mindset that can give professionals a distinct advantage is a much stronger focus on contingency planning. It's about deliberately investing the time now to answer what we could do if. What happens if 80% of our workforce is wiped out during a hurricane? What if there's an explosion at the manufacturing plant that produces the primary materials for our product? What if torrential rainfall prevents our trucks from delivering any products to retailers for weeks on end? Leaders who have rallied their teams to consider the answers to those types of questions can respond more quickly when disaster strikes and experience less stress in the process. They know without a doubt that uncertainty will occur, and at least to some extent, they are prepared to deal with it. Their contingency plans give them the flexibility to work around whatever trauma impacts their business model. And when nothing in those plans prepares them for the crisis at hand, teams are already deeply rooted in the practice of innovative thinking that allows them to find a way, even when things look completely hopeless. The uncertainty mindset also provides some valuable perspective based on what history has taught us. No crisis is permanent. As a business community and a society, we have endured and survived devastating times with far fewer resources and technology than we have today. But the key to maintaining a "this too shall pass" attitude in the middle of a crisis is knowing you have strategies in place to help you and your team make it safely to the other side. Not just surviving, but thriving. Uncertainty demands a phased response. Timing is everything, even if you have some killer strategies ready to deploy. When businesses are suddenly faced with a dramatic shift in the marketplace, leaders need a logical, structured approach, preferably one that doesn't involve remaining completely paralyzed or spinning into a mad frenzy. As I've heard it said, you can eat the elephant only if you do it one bite at a time. Regardless of the strategies you employ, it's important to understand that your crisis response to uncertainty will be more effective if you approach it in 3 different phases. Phase 1, stabilize the business. Whatever role you play within an organization, do what you can to help ensure that the company will remain standing after the dust settles, and it likely will. Your ability to do that may vary, depending on whether you're the CEO, owner, manager, or team lead. For top-level decision makers, this process might involve implementing budget cuts, issuing a hiring freeze, halting certain projects, negotiating new terms with vendors, or even laying off a percentage of non-essential workers. Not pleasant tasks, to be sure, but if your corporate life is on the line, that kind of belt-tightening is mandatory. Otherwise, game over. For those in mid-level roles, support these initiatives and demonstrate that you understand the need for tough choices. Phase 2, grow the business. Once survival for your company or employer is no longer in question, start searching for hidden opportunities within uncertainty and find creative ways to serve your customers. What can you do right now in the middle of a crisis to expand your market share, your revenue, or your competitive edge? Think outside the box. Maybe that involves different products, different delivery platforms, or even a different target audience. Look for ways to grow. And phase 3, transform the business. After the uncertainty has died down, analyze the impact of the crisis on your industry, your customers, and your competition. How have needs, preferences, and resources changed? How can you help your company evolve ahead of the curve to take advantage of that? Be prepared to make these shifts, then create positive transformation. Professionals who are diligent about moving their companies through these 3 phases with every bout of uncertainty increase the odds of success right along with their employers. In some ways, Smart leaders and the companies they manage are like diamonds in the rough that emerge from the extreme pressure to become stronger. And I should also point out that the progression through these phases isn't always a linear process. Sometimes you have to start back at square one. I know about that from personal experience. In 2004, my husband celebrated 20 years in business with his dental practice, located in a mountainous region of western North Carolina. The last place you'd expect to flood, right? Wrong. Hurricane Ivan hit the coast with torrential rainfall, and the local government was slow to release the dam. An 8-foot wall of water crashed into our community's historic district, including my husband's office. Within 24 hours, all of the patient records, dental equipment, and memories were floating in waist-high water. Enter Phase 1. We spent the next week trying to put the pieces back together, cleaning everything up and saving what we could. We found a temporary location for him to practice, and we started the long process of working with the insurance company to get the funds for rebuilding. After the initial shock and the long, difficult days, the light at the end of the tunnel seemed to be just ahead. Moving toward Phase 2, we purchased new equipment, began notifying patients about our temporary location, and started interviewing architects to help us rebuild the original office. Despite the disaster and the inconvenience, this rebuilding effort was going to give my husband the opportunity to upgrade some of his systems and customize the space to better serve his patients, making lemonade out of lemons, full speed ahead. Until 1 week later, when a second hurricane inexplicably hit the coast. The area that never floods was flooded again, boomeranging us back into Phase 1. Once we accepted the reality of the situation, which was particularly tough the second time around, we repeated the cleanup process and revisited our plans for construction. As we made progress towards Phase 2 again, we decided to use this forced reset as a chance to strengthen our connections with existing patients. We started interviewing patients and referring doctors to find out what was most important to them in selecting a dentist and what would make them choose one over another. The feedback we got from those interviews was pure gold. In fact, we used it to rewrite the practice vision, mission, value statement, and strategic plan. Once the office was rebuilt, my husband and his team were more than ready to shift into Phase 3. We applied the input we had gathered in Phase 2 to redesign our patient experience, create a new marketing program, and develop a communication strategy for referrals. Those carefully crafted updates became a true differentiator in the marketplace and the catalyst for significant growth. The point here is perseverance is a prerequisite for survival. Sometimes it's 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Stay flexible and don't give up. It's not always a linear progression, but I can guarantee that sticking with it will give you the inside track on longevity. If your goal is to successfully move yourself and your organization through times of uncertainty, the first step is adopting a different mindset. This is your chance to flip the script, to start thinking about uncertainty from a new angle, to expect it, plan for it, to greet it with strategy, vision, and hard work, to model that approach for your coworkers and teams, to use it as a tool for unprecedented innovation and growth. The chapters ahead will show you exactly how to make that happen.